was this woman I used to know, used to correspond with, and only met her in person one time. That's annoying. Only met her one time in San Francisco. She had been a fan of my web stuff since the beginning and remained so for a long time. I haven't heard from her. I don't even know how long it's been now, but she stayed connected and we corresponded for at least 10 years. She was not particularly elegiac or wasn't into big words or eloquent or anything. She described herself as boring. Let me adjust myself here. She described herself as boring, and I don't mean anything derogatory by this, but I couldn't disagree. She was what she was. But once in a while in these conversations, she could really hit the bullseye. I don't want to say she hit the top or the bottom, because that's not where the bullseye is. She just hit it right in the middle, right on the spot. She said a few things that have always stuck with me. One of them came back to haunt me last night. She was talking about how when she reads my stuff, or when she listens to my audio, or this is before I was doing video, but she would have extended these comments into video as well. She said that when anybody reads this stuff, that when anybody sees how you put yourself out there, nobody thinks anybody else is listening. Nobody thinks anybody else is reading this or hearing it, or it's people think you are talking directly to them. And she said this with such earnestness about her. It's always stuck with me, and it came back to haunt me last night. And don't go looking for it because I already deleted it, but somebody commented on my proclivity for overshare. It took a few months for word to get to me, but I got a little upset when I learned that someone I knew somebody I knew and really admired and respected is gone. And this is a person that I never met in person. And that doesn't matter though. He goes back to that BBS that I've referenced a few times in the past, a BBS that I connected to in 1993, I think. Doesn't matter, but I was first online in 92 and I didn't really find the internet or even hear about it until 93. And he was a star of that place. I don't want to give too much away, but he wrote for a major magazine, and on that account, he gave that BBS a little bit of street cred, I guess you'd say. Because wow, we have a famous journalist among us. I reactivated Facebook long enough to just get the story. Basically, it was complications from surgery. It wasn't COVID, although he did get that. And I said we never met in person, but he wasn't really inclined to do that. He didn't meet up with a lot of people from the internet. I know he was good friends with a woman that I dated for a little while. Like 3 years, I think. But he just wasn't in that habit of meeting up with people from online. But we had a lot of really memorable interactions. Matter of fact, I'm not going to go back to verify this, but I think I was the last person to comment on one of his regular Facebook postings before his partner started posting updates from the hospital. And it was so sad, man, to read that shit. Because evidently he was in good spirits and seemed healthy and everything. But the next thing you know, he's gone. And it's like remembering Paul Auster. He said it in a typically succinct, or atypically succinct way. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, in 1 minute there's life, and then in another minute there's no life. I think he was talking about his father dying. But I remember this morning I woke up and I remembered when I was in high school there was a movie that everybody had to watch. It was a made-for-TV movie that was required viewing for some class that I was in. It was about suicide, which was, as I recall it, in the 1980s, it was a pretty taboo subject. You didn't talk about it, and I don't know, maybe that's just my perception, but the fact that there was a made-for-TV movie about the subject was considered notable or unusual. It was only half about the kid that killed himself and his reasons and all that. It was really more about the aftermath and the people he left behind and the emotional carnage. But there was one moment that was really effective, and to me at least, and I just thought of it today, where the kid's mother, who was racked with guilt and questions about what she could have done differently. She's waking up one morning and the music is like this, harps and choirs of angels and welcome to this precious gift of the day. And then she rises up from bed and then suddenly all that music stops. And she meets the reality of her son's suicide, and this wasn't like the day after, this was months later. That's how I felt this morning. Wake up feeling fine, and then in the following instant, there's no life.